Are you interested in starting a business, but you're hesitant to go out on your own? Well, our guest today actually went from making $15 an hour cold calling to then working for a real estate investor and finding a deal that they could wholesale for $50,000. He brought home $35,000 from his commission just for finding this rundown house and then wholesaling it, which is a strategy for getting a property under contract and then passing it off to an investor who does have money. And they made the difference, which was $50,000 in this case. So Nick's a great example of how you can learn on the job if you select the right job. And now, of course, he's out on his own. And this is going to be an incredible episode, a path that we haven't covered before. So buckle up and get ready, because we're going to help you get to financial freedom. If you've received any benefit from this podcast so far, please leave us a review. It helps us make more content to help get you over the edge to financial freedom.
The DealMachine REI Podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Let's zoom back to like when you got started in real estate. Like, how did you end up getting your first wholesale deal, and how did that transform into doing different types of deals and going to live events now?
So my first jump in real estate was actually when I was in college at UT here in Austin. I worked at a cold calling center for a realtor named Tim Isle. He's and Keller Williams here. He's like Gary Keller's protege. He went to A&M and then just was a rock star right from the beginning. And so he had this cold call center called Phone Animal, and it was like, what was it, $15 an hour. And that's really where I got the repetitions in cold calling, asking people if they wanted to sell. And then after that, I took a break from real estate for a couple of years. And then in Austin, met a couple of guys who were doing development, fix and flips, and wholesaling. So started working with them. They hired me as an acquisitions manager. And so that's when I did my first wholesale deal. And that first deal was actually a $50,000 assignment fee.
What?
And
whoa, no way.
Yeah, for us.
$50,000 on your first deal?
Yeah, for the first deal. It was pretty crazy.
And that was with the company, or is that your personal, like you walked away with 50K?
So that was with the company, but my commission on wholesale deals was 70%. So dang, still pretty good. 70% at 50K. And then we used to dispo it, to sell the deal to an investor. We used another guy. His name is Tyler out at New Western here in Austin, and he specializes in bringing buyers and sellers together. So a lot of people would use him to sell their deals. And so I think on that deal, he made 40K. So I think the total margin there was about 90,000.
Wow.
Dang. And that was before Austin is as expensive as it was now, right? That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
That was before the boom in early 2021. And then
so how did you find a deal that had that much? How did you find a deal that had that much margin on it?
Let's see. I didn't get that deal until after about 3 months of cold calling. We were doing like 30 hours a week of cold calling every day on the dialer. I think at that time we were using Zen Call, which is now Ready Mode. And we were pulling lists too. We weren't even doing driving for dollars back then. I had never heard of it. My mentors and guys I was working with had never heard of it either. And just putting the repetitions in every day, calling, 5-6 hours a day for 3 months straight, building a pipeline. And then one day I just called this guy and set an appointment. He's like, yeah, I want to sell. And I remember even asking him questions like, might it make sense for you to hire a realtor? I mean, do you really want to squeeze every penny out of this property, or what, what's your goal here? And he was like, yeah, no, I don't care. I just want to sell it fast. I want to get out of Austin. So I was really excited for that appointment. And we brought a paper contract with us on the appointment, and he signed it there on the spot. So that was really exciting. And I was like, holy shit, this works. I was getting ready to give up on the dialer too. I was like, man, this 6 hours a day, everyone's telling me to F off.
For 3 months.
Yeah.
But so no other deal in that 3 months resulted from your efforts in cold calling. But it only took one deal to make you feel like it was worth it.
That's right. Yeah. I had built a pipeline of like warm leads in that 3 months of people like, oh, I'll sell in 6 months or, maybe in a year, just, setting appointments and stuff, people that weren't ready. But this guy was ready to go on the spot. Like we met the next day. And so that I was really excited about that.
That's crazy. And so I know you said he didn't want to sell it with a realtor and he just wanted to get out of Austin. Like, why not? Why did he not care? Was he so rich that $90,000 didn't matter to this person?
Yeah, so there was a tenant in the house month to month, and he just wanted to get rid of it. And he was in Austin. He was moving out of Austin. And his philosophy was like, I don't want to have rentals where I'm not located physically. And so that's what I kind of got from him. He didn't need the money. He didn't need to squeeze every penny about it out of the property. It was more of like a speed and convenience thing for him.
Was it an investor?
I think it's really important to tell.
What was his story? He just had real estate there, and this was one particular one that he didn't care about, or?
Yeah. It was a really bad condition house. It was a tear down actually, and they tore it down and did a new construction project on it. All the other ones, I think he was okay with listing. I think he did list all the other ones with an agent. They were in better shape houses, and he was able to get top dollar for those ones.
Gotcha. So, okay, at this point, you graduated college, you did cold calling, and now you're actually making 70% of this $50K deal, right? So is this like a year out of college or so, or how far
this
out of college?
Was 3 years out of college.
Okay, got it. And it was worth the 3 months of cold calling. What did you do with the money at that point?
I was just about to ask, what did you do next?
With the money at that point, what did I do with the money? I know I invested some of it in my own list because I was thinking, okay, I want 100% of this next time, right?
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
I was investing in.
So before you had co-bought some data with somebody.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What was the list that you decided to buy?
I believe it was PropStream. It was I forget the name of the company, to be honest. It was so long ago, but it was a website where you could just pull a list. I think it was absentee owners.
Okay.
Absentee owners, high equity, of course, the standard list.
What is high equity in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's if they own 70% of it or more.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's really high.
Yeah. I mean, cool. That is pretty high.
And then just in Austin, or was there any other filtering that you did?
Yeah, it was all just Austin, city of Austin at that time. I wasn't too experienced, so I didn't know how to dial in a list and get, all the filters down and stuff like that. But the lists are expensive, and they're more expensive now than they've ever been.
What? Are you kidding me? Where are you getting it from?
Well, that's just what I haven't pulled a list in a while because we do driving for dollars now. But okay. I know guys that I've talked to who are pulling really high quality lists are like, yeah, it's super expensive. It's more, but that's a good thing. I mean, I feel like the more expensive the list, the better quality it is. So I wouldn't shy away from paying a lot of money if you're going to pull lists. But I always tell people if they're going to start out, you should just drive for dollars. Use the DealMachine app, go tag properties because so few investors are doing that, right? I think most of these guys just want to pull the list and call, and they're not actually willing to get out there and do it themselves.
Right.
So what was give us an example of an expensive list. What are you paying for? What do you pay to get the list? And then about how many deals are you pulling from that list?
The last list we pulled, I think it was like 5,000 properties, high equity, absentee owners, and they were somehow able to figure out if the houses were in really bad shape. I don't know how exactly they're able to do that, but properties built from 1800 to maybe 2010, and a lot of these properties that we look at online, they were in bad shape. So I'm not sure exactly how they were able to narrow that down, but
cool.
Yeah. How many deals do you get from that?
From that list, shoot, we probably got. I think they're still even using that list. From that list, I probably got myself 8 deals off of it.
Okay. Do you know an average assignment fee per deal would have been on that list?
The average assignment fee at that time for that list was probably around 20 grand.
Whoa, that's
And
awesome.
what did you pay
Is
for
that
the
pretty
list?
average here in Austin?
What's that?
Is that pretty average here in Austin?
Yeah, well, it just depends on like what time of the year or which year you were doing it. Like right now, those numbers are going to be way down just because the market has dropped off. But in 2021 and 2020, it was very common to get high assignment fees, $50,000,
Gotcha.
$80,000.
Gotcha. Okay, so how many wholesale deals have you done so far, and how has that evolved into other types of deals?
To date, wholesale deals that I've done, I would say it's around 20. And that's because we've been keeping the deals for ourselves now. A lot of the teardowns, we've been doing new construction projects around Austin. We have 10 going on right now. So we're really excited.
Whoa. So it's it's a property where you're tearing it down and you're building brand new construction.
Yeah. And we actually don't do stick builds either. So we do modulars that are built in a factory.
Explain to me what that is.
Yeah, so these modulars, they're built in a factory, they're air conditioned. It's a lot cheaper to build them and a lot quicker. And then when the house is about 80% done, they load it on a double wide truck and they drive it down the freeway from South Carolina to Austin. And then we get a crane on the property, and the crane just picks up all these boxes and basically stacks them on pier and beams. And
so that's crazy. That means like the cost or the time to build it is like nothing, right?
It's nothing. We save so much money on carrying costs and holding costs. We can get a house finished in like 6 months.
And then do you end up selling it, or do you keep it as a rental property?
We've been selling them all, but after we sell this next round, we should probably start thinking about keeping some and putting tenants in them.
So the whole house is actually, it's not a shipping container. It's actually like drywall and studs, right? It's just built. It's pre-built.
Yeah, the house is like 80% done. The appliances are even in the boxes, like in the kitchen box, and it's really cool.
Man, I gotta see one of those.
Yeah. So the next time we drop one, you should come out. We always we go out there for a few hours with everybody in the office. We'll drink beers and just celebrate watching this crane drop these houses. It's really cool.
Ooh, I bet. Yeah, that's awesome.
A lot of people, when they hear prefab or modular homes, they think, oh, it's like a mobile home. I think like really bad quality. And maybe 5 to 10 years ago, that was the case. But these days, that is not the case. These houses look just as good, if not better, than a stick build. You can't tell the difference between a modular and a stick build. You're
telling me I couldn't tell the difference? Are you kidding me?
Not tell the difference at all. Not at all.
What?
And legally,
how is that possible?
Legally, we don't have to disclose that it was built in a factory or it was modular either. So
people
don't even think to ask because they're walking this house and they're like, "Oh, this is super nice." They're really modern, and it's. I believe the future of home building is modular and prefabs. That and 3D printing. The upscale, nicer homes will be modular and prefabs in a factory, and then the lower income housing will be done with 3D printing. That's what I think.
Please open up your podcast app right now and leave us a review and let us know what you thought of this episode. It means so much because the reviews help us get in front of more people. And the more people we can get in front of, the more we can help them achieve financial freedom. And we also get more energy to put more content out like this to help you. So by leaving us a review, it will give you more content to come to help you along on your journey. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And so when you find a deal now, how do you decide if you're going to do this modular build or if you're going to just wholesale it? Because you still do some wholesale deals now, right?
I do, yeah. So the biggest thing, the biggest deal killer for our modular strategy is trees. So Austin, they're really strict on trees, what trees you can, take down, what has to say. It has to do with like the species of the tree and then, how big it is, all those sort of things. So any property.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed a lot of the trees have a tag on them. And then every type of like outdoor patio ends up having the trees growing through the actual deck. So is that why?
Yeah. So a lot of, so it all has to do with the critical root zone. So if a tree is big enough, the critical root zone goes out far enough, you can't build anywhere near the tree. And they're really strict about that in Austin. So anytime I walk a lot, and I see that there could be some tree issues, automatically I'm like, okay, we're going to wholesale this to somebody who either will fix and flip it or they'll tear the house down and they'll stick build it. Because when you stick build on site, you can get more creative about building around trees, more custom stuff. With our modulars, we only have 5 different houses right now, so it's pretty cookie cutter. We change up the finishes depending on what area we're in, but we are definitely looking to expand into getting more than 5 houses.
Gotcha. So that makes sense. If there's a tree on the property, you might just wholesale it, right? You can just make a profit faster than it would be to go through the trouble of tearing something down, possibly running into a tree root, and then not being able to build on that property. Did you talk to me about the first one that you did? Because there's a huge difference for me in doing a wholesale deal versus actually building a property. And one of those things is you have to have some type of financing or money to build a property, right? But to wholesale a deal, you don't really have to have any money at all. So talk to me about how you ended up doing your first one of those deals.
Yeah, so that's the great thing about wholesaling, right? Is you really don't need much money at all. Maybe a little bit of earnest money and option money, but other than that, the end buyer is closing on it. So there's not much risk for you. But for modular and new construction, it's a whole different game. You got to go to a lender most of the time. The permitting and planning is a long process. It's expensive. You have to get a fresh survey with topography and elevations and trees. It's just a long process.
So to go through all that trouble, like the permitting and the topography and everything, it must have been like a big payday, right? If you're not going to wholesale it and just be done with it.
Yeah, it is. So we like to cherry pick those ones, and you know it takes a lot longer to get paid on them, but it's definitely a bigger paycheck. But there's something about getting paid really quick that's really nice as well with wholesaling. I mean, in as little time as 2 weeks to maybe a month, however long the end buyer needs to close, right? I mean, it's just like how do you value your time, right? Would you rather make $30,000 in 2 weeks, or would you rather make $100,000 in like 8 months? Mm-hmm. A lot of people would take, the 30 grand in 2 weeks for whatever reason.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And in the beginning, I sure did. We need money now, and I want to expand the business and grow it, right?
Do you ever get people that come up to you and ask how can they get involved with wholesaling here in Austin?
All the time. Yeah. And I always tell them the same thing. I say, download DealMachine, start driving for dollars, tagging properties. And I also tell them, don't rely just on one big market like Austin. If you're in a big city like Austin, San Francisco Bay Area, Dallas, Phoenix, wherever, you should have like a couple suburb cities too where you can get deals from, because it's really competitive in Austin right now. It's hard to find a fix and flip that pencils really well. So I've been targeting like Round Rock, Leander, Kyle, San Marcos, all those types of cities around. I think that it's a mistake for a lot of people in big markets to just focus on the big market and tag properties there, because it'll take a lot longer to find a deal. Even if it's only a $3,000 or $5,000 assignment fee in a smaller city in a suburb, right? That's better than nothing. And if you get it quicker, then
get your first one done and out of the way. And we're primarily in a small market outside of Kansas City, and we've completely dominated our small community to where I get wholesalers from Kansas City that come to St. Joe. They'll get a deal, but then they call me looking for somebody to buy the deal, which is great because I've established my roots. And I think that me going to Kansas City, I would just spend a bunch of time trying to get a deal. There's already a lot of wholesalers there, so it's not worth my time and energy to go there to get one deal. And so, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's good. Look around, pick the one big area, look around what smaller city is around you, and go and look in there. People are going to move.
Right. Like
investors are going to move. If they can't find a deal in Austin, they're going to go around. They're going to go look around in other places. So,
yeah, if it's an extra 20-minute drive for them to do a fix and flip out of Austin, they'll take it on. As long as
you can still have equity in the suburbs too. Like some people value living outside of the city limits or out in a suburb of a big city rather than being in the big city. So you can still get great value out of that too.
Exactly.
That definitely tracks with what I noticed in Indianapolis, which is where I invest, is like the top neighborhood where gentrification was happening, all these flips were happening. It was so competitive because everyone knew that's where people wanted to flip homes, that it was really tough to find a deal. But around the outskirts of the actual highway that went around the city, all those homes I found were like 40-year-old ranches that had never been updated. And that's where I could actually find really great deals. They were like not exciting deals because they weren't building really cool modular homes that were like 2 and 3 stories and looked really cool, but it was just like very predictable projects because they were all these 3-2 ranches, and I could calculate exactly what it would cost to renovate a house like that because they were all so similar. And I found that they weren't getting hit up as much from mail either. And so I've done more of my deals in that type of zone, which kind of is like Leander or like San Marcos, I think, in relation to Austin. It's just like outside of that really hot zone. So Nick, I'm curious, you've done 20 wholesale deals and you have 10 projects going right now. What's your biggest mistake? I love hearing mistakes because everybody just shares the good stuff. And I feel like we can all learn from the stuff that we've messed up. And believe me, I've made some mistakes. I'm curious if you have.
Oh, definitely. Definitely made some mistakes. I would say the biggest mistake I made was not talking to enough buyers before getting a deal under contract, and then not being able to sell that contract and having to cancel and lose.
Oh, really? Everybody always worries about that. What did you do?
So I got a property under contract on the east side. This was December of last year. So really bad time in the market, but I thought I got it at a great price, and I just couldn't find anybody to buy this thing. It was a teardown, so I had to find an investor who does new construction, which is a lot harder to do than finding a guy who will just fix. I feel like everybody will do a fix and flip, right? Even the guys who do new builds, new construction, they'll even do fix and flips. But for this one, there was just no way it could be saved. The house had to go, and the seller even said, like, this house needs to be torn down. I want to do new construction. I was like, okay, for sure. And so, yeah, I just spent a lot of my time looking for a buyer, and everybody was like, no, we're not even taking on any projects right now. The market was so bad. Interest rates were at like, I don't know, 6-7%, something crazy like that. And at that time too, a lot of the guys doing new construction projects in Austin had inventory just sitting on the market, not moving at all. And they're worried they're going to take loss. So it was really frustrating for me to have to give that one up because I knew I had it at a good price. It wasn't even a matter of price. It was more just nobody was buying at that time. And so the option period ended on New Year's Eve, actually. And so I had to cancel, and I lost $5,000 in option money. So that was a good learning experience. So now I always tell people, like, hey, go talk to buyers first, talk to investors and see what they want. I think a really underrated way to do that is to call the hard money lenders and say, like, hey, you know, I heard you're the guy in town that people go to for hard money. I'm a wholesaler. I come across a lot of deals at a discount. You know, who's still asking you for hard money to fund their deals? Is anybody out there still looking for money? And then they'll be like, yeah. And then you can say, all right, well, should I bring my deals to you? And then you can relay it to them. And they'll always say, yes, dude, bring your deals to me. I will bring it to my guys. So, don't be afraid to like pick up the phone and talk to these hard money lenders. You know, in the beginning, you'll be a little nervous, but I always like to write little scripts before I make these kind of calls. Even today with sellers, before I go on an appointment or talk to them on the phone, when I think I can close them, I'll just write down the questions that I want to ask, asking good questions. And usually they always start with how or what. That's something that I got from Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. I know you're a fan of that book as well.
I just read it.
Yeah.
I could read it again. It was so
great too. His masterclass is phenomenal. So I highly recommend.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, anyone who's getting started in wholesaling, definitely read that book, and also just study a lot of the people who are already doing it. In the beginning, I was always listening to YouTube videos, to great podcasts like yours, audiobooks. If I was like running around the apartment doing laundry or dishes, I got my earbuds in and I'm listening to somebody who's an expert talk about wholesaling. Or if I'm sitting down, I'm reading a book about it. So guys like, you know, Pace Morby, Brent Daniels, Steve Trang, Zach Booth is great too. All these guys.
Oh yeah.
Jerry Norton, Kent Clothier, just consume all that information in the beginning because you're going to shorten the learning curve and you're going to get a lot better, a lot quicker. So if you want to do your first deal within 30 days or within 2 months, that's what I would recommend. I mean, Zach Booth did 90K in 40 days in, what was it, Tampa?
He did. He went to Florida, a brand new market where he had no connections at all. And yeah, in 90 days, he wanted to prove how you could actually start in a new market. So obviously he had the skills, but he didn't know any other connections, right? So he went driving for dollars, he marketed to them. And then, he closed a bunch of revenue through wholesaling in that market within 90 days. So he documented the whole thing on his YouTube channel.
God, I love that story, man. Sometimes I still go back and I listen to his stuff and I'm like, it inspires me. A lot of these podcasts and good YouTube videos I save in my YouTube premium account.
Yeah.
And I'll go back and listen to them again because I always tell people, like, you're a different person. You're a new person when you consume this content, and when you reread a book or re-listen to a podcast, you take something new away from it every time. So I always say it's like personal development is like personal hygiene. We recommend it daily. So just keep doing it.
Right.
A lot of Never Split the Difference. I've read that several times. A lot of these YouTube videos from Pace Morby and Brent Daniels and all these guys I've listened to like several times,
Right.
Hey, Nick, what, I know we're getting close here on time, but can you give us an idea? How has this journey in wholesale changed the trajectory of your life?
I'd say it's changed big time. I always knew that I wanted to do real estate and that was going to be like the end goal for me. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know about wholesaling in the beginning. I just thought I would, own a bunch of rental properties or whatever. But to do that, you have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I think wholesaling is the best place to start in real estate to make money fast and learn a lot too. I always tell people that the highest paying skill in real estate, no matter what level you're at, is your ability to talk to people. Your ability to deal with people, talking to sellers, talking to brokers, you name it. I mean, and the only way to get better at that is to put in the repetitions, right? So don't be afraid of the phone. Like, pick up the phone and just talk to people, keep talking to people. And eventually you're going to get really good and it becomes natural. And then it gets really fun. So wholesaling has definitely changed my life for the better. And I still love doing it. I still love talking to sellers today.
I think that talking to people is a skill, not just for sales, but for life. I mean, literally, the relationship, anything, relationships with friends, with family, with coworkers, with potential customers, just the ability to carry a conversation and be interested in what other people are saying is going to open doors for you in business that you would not expect. And it has been proven time and time again, but it is one skill set that is not a natural skill set for some people. It takes, like you said, repetition. It takes how to have a conversation over and over and over and being genuinely interested in what other people are saying. So kudos to you on finding that success and doing the tough thing of having those conversations, because sometimes it's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it is a hugely beneficial skill set to have.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great advice too, because especially when you're getting started, it's so easy to give up and get discouraged. Here's the actual situation. I just started marketing in Indianapolis again, because I want to get some more off-market deals and build my rental portfolio. And I read a book like Never Split the Difference, but then when I'm in an actual conversation, it can be very anxiety driving when I'm like, okay, I forgot all the rules I learned, right? It's like, sometimes you just like shut that down and then just like have a normal conversation. And so I'm curious, like when you're going through this process, what I wanted to do was like, I want to go through the discovery phase and I want to find way more about this person's problems before we start talking about price. But she just wanted to push it to the price conversation. So I was like, all right, I'll just give up and I'll tell her what I can actually do. And I gave her the price 2 months and she was like, no, I can't do it. And then I was like, well, if you have any, issues closing, just let me know. And she tried to get me to raise. I kind of sucked my price. And then she came back. She's like, yeah, they had trouble closing. So I got it for my original price. But I'm just curious, like how much of that comes up with you now? I feel like as a beginner, it can be very stressful to have to realize like the script or like every single rule that you should be following versus just having a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I still to this day will go back to the Chris Voss masterclass and these books and stuff just to keep it fresh. I probably went through that masterclass at least three times to date. And like you said, it's hard too, because you want to just go back to your natural inclination of just talking numbers and, talking to them without thinking about the lessons you've learned from these other mentors and stuff. So it's like going against the grain. It feels really uncomfortable, but it just takes time and the repetitions. Sometimes you got to catch yourself and be like, okay, back to the script, back to the mirroring and labeling. I got this on my monitor in front of me. It says,
okay, a little sticky note that says mirror and label.
Yeah, wow. I always have it in front of me right here, always. So like when I'm on the phones right here, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, I need to mirror more. Just repeating the last couple words of what they say and then throwing a label on it, which is great. And with the price thing, that happens all the time with my team. They just want to get to the numbers, and I'll say something like, numbers are always the easiest part. What else is important to you about selling this house? Or just asking great questions, how and why questions. And explaining the process, setting the expectations.
Right. It's all about setting the expectations. Here goes a mirror and label from me. Nick, it seems like you'd like people to reach out to you on social media and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah, I have been thinking about building a social media presence with the business. I haven't started yet, but it's definitely the move, I think, because you'll be able to do more deals. I mean, look what like Pace Morby is doing now. He only does deals through his own network. So
right, people bringing him deals through social media. Where's the best place for people to connect with you, Nick?
So my Instagram is just Nick Haag 9, NickHaag 9. I'm gonna start posting some more real estate stuff here pretty soon about wholesaling and what we're doing with the business and the modular stuff too. I know a lot of people have been asking me to post that, so very excited to share that with everyone.
Nick, I'm following you right now, my friend.
Cool. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate your time. This was a great episode because I think we heard about your first deal, huge check. People are going to get excited about that. And then I loved your advice on negotiation and sales, because at the end of the day, I feel like that's the driving factor in this whole business, is talking with people, negotiation and sales. So that was a great reminder for everybody listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate you having me on. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.